Hello everyone, I'm back again, and this will be my review slash setup of the PS5. Of course, setup just like any other console starts out, asks for your information which I've already inputted, so I'm not going to show you any of that, but I will show you my display settings. So if we go down to screen and video, make sure your resolution is set to 2160p. You might think that that's pretty standard, but some people maybe not. For HDR, make sure it's on automatic. Deep color on automatic. Make sure your RGB range is set to limited. I know that there's polarizing views of around limited and full RGB, so I'm just going to simplify it like I did with my other review of the Series X. If you prefer full, make sure that your black levels match full range. So set it to full, and then set your black level to low. You can do this by going into all settings, go into game, picture mode, scroll down to picture options, and under picture options, change the black level to high, and then set your console to full RGB. Doing so should basically make it almost identical to having your black level set to low and having your console set to limited. However, your TV was designed with limited range in mind, and just like with the Series X, if you set it to full, videos do not play in full. So if you want to watch a movie on Netflix or something, you're going to have to change it back anyway. So to save yourself some hassle, and also just to make sure you get the best possible picture quality, in my opinion, keep it at limited. Now, just like with the Xbox, you can adjust the HDR. So we're going to go into adjust HDR. You're going to go into your settings again, all settings, go into game mode, scroll down to expert controls, and set either dynamic tone mapping or HGIG or turn it off completely. After doing so, adjust your levels accordingly. I've already done it, so I'm just going to keep hitting next. And away we go. Now, just so you know, both PlayStation's menu and also all PlayStation 5 or PS4 games in the PlayStation 5 automatically use HDR. So, no matter what you throw on screen, it'll show HDR. This could be a good or a bad thing depending on your TV. So, there's no way, unfortunately, to actually shut that off unless you shut HDR itself off, which I don't really recommend doing. I've personally found that the boost it makes to games, at least on the PlayStation, has been quite significant, and so I've left it on. Another thing about the PS5's UI or menu, when you go to a PS5 game, a little tune plays. That's just part of the UI. In terms of storage, you have approximately 625 gigabytes, I think it is, when the system UI and everything else is said and done and installed for. However, that's all you have for your next-gen games. Next-gen, not last-gen. So you do not need the SSD for last-gen games on this console. I don't know why, but it's slightly different than the other console. So you just plug in your external drive, go to your game library, and if we go to filter, sorry, not filter, to installed, and scroll down, look, in my extended storage, I've got 137 PS4 games already installed. Now, some of them show that they are there, but cannot be played. So if we scroll down a little bit, for example, I'll find one, just give me a minute. Zone of the Enders. So you'll see it says playable on PS4, but it's blacked out. Valkyrie Profile 4 or Valkyrie Chronicles 4 is blacked out. Detroit Become Human is blacked out. This means that they haven't been patched just yet to run on PS5 backward compatibility. So be aware of that when you first put in your hard drive. Not all games will work, but most of your games should, in theory, work, which is pretty handy. And again, they work with enhancements too, such as HDR. I've personally found that frame rate is smoother in them too. And just, yeah, they're all enhanced. However, that's as far back as the PS5 can go for backwards compatibility. There's no 3 generations like the other consoles. So you have PS4 and you have your PS4 to PS2 perhaps downloads like Star Ocean here till the end of time. I can play that on my PS4. I can play Final Fantasy VII, the original, on my PS4. Sure, no problem. However, that's as far back as backwards compatibility at the present moment goes, other than PlayStation Now, which I will be doing a review on next. Hopefully it's improved since the last time I tried it, but I don't know. I have my doubts. Okay. So, another thing about the PlayStation UI you will notice is PlayStation Plus and the PlayStation Store and even PlayStation Now are all directly on the console now as part of the console's UI. No longer are they a separate app. This makes them way faster to load up, way faster to get into, and just boom. Also, on PlayStation 5 exclusively, I lost my talking there for a minute, is the PlayStation Plus collection. Not a big collection so far, but it's free. So if you go to it, just for a second, notice how fast it boots up with the SSD, and there's all your PlayStation Plus collection games. You can download them, install them, and boom, away you go. Kind of like Game Pass in a way, but nowhere near the breadth of titles that Game Pass has. And of course, you still have your PlayStation Plus monthly games, yada yada yada. What else do I need to go over? Okay, so sound. If we go into our sound settings, there's a couple of things you need to be aware of. The first is that the PlayStation 5, at least at the present moment, unless you're running a Blu-ray that I know of, I haven't actually tested a Blu-ray yet, but I've read some reviews read some articles online that claim that PS5 can do Dolby Atmos. But for games, the PS5 cannot do Dolby Atmos. It can only do Dolby Digital. It does, however, have the Tempest engine. Now, the Tempest engine is finicky because so far, at least, it only works with Sony's official headset. And so it's kind of like their own sort of tweak on 3D audio tech. How well does it work? I'm going to be honest with you guys. Wearing headphones for Tempest and wearing headphones for Dolby Atmos, I really don't notice a huge defining drastic difference. So unless Sony wows me in the next few months with an update to the Tempest engine, I'm not convinced that it's better than Dolby Atmos, and I think Dolby Atmos should have been implemented on this console, but who knows. Software updates can do a world of things, and who knows, maybe Sony will eventually cave and pay Dolby the licensing fees. There is also no Dolby Vision on the PS5, at least no support as of yet, so you just have your HDR10 at the present moment for both games and movies. But again, everything you put into the PS5 runs in HDR. Did I say PS4 a couple of minutes ago? Oops, that's a blunder. Anyway, when you're plugging in your PlayStation 5, make sure it's plugged directly into the back of your TV. Do not plug it in through a soundbar because you will lose some of the capability of the HDMI 2.1. And as I've read, in the future, HDMI 2.1 will be a factor in Sony's PS5 supporting variable refresh rate. So if you want to have variable refresh rate as stable as can be, plug it in directly to the TV. I should make that a slogan. Anyway, setting up the PS5 is pretty standard, but what about actually setting it up on the stand? So I'm going to give you guys a tip. When you put the stand on, if you're putting it in vertical, remove the cap from the bottom of the console. Yes, there's a cap. And turn your orientation of your stand to be like this, up and down, like my hand. And then place it on top of the stand and screw it into the bottom. That's how you do it. If you want to do the horizontal configuration like I did, make sure that the stand ramp, I guess I didn't explain that, but the ramp is like this in vertical, and it's like this in horizontal. So turn it so that the ramp is like this, and then you clip the two clips on the back of the stand to the back of the console. Now I have, of course, two problems with this. The first is that if you move the console even slightly, it'll fall right off the stand. No joke, it's not secure. It is when you just don't touch it, sure. But as soon as you move it, it can come right off, no problem. The other thing is, it has a very peculiar point of where it sits. So you can't see them, because I can't show them to you, but on the back of the console are some Sony symbols: triangle, cross, circle, square. And you have to line up the two prongs with those symbols, and exactly where those symbols are, otherwise the console will just kind of flop over. So that's kind of annoying, because this console is a brute. It's massive, as you all know, and it's heavy. It's especially heavy on one side of the console, and I don't know why. But yeah, so if you're going to be setting this thing up, just be aware of that. It'll save you a ton of time. I got confused at first because, of course, I didn't read the instructions. Haha, why would I? It's just a stand. How hard can it be? Well, you have to have the correct orientation or it doesn't work. So just keep that in mind. It can't just sit sideways like other consoles can. That being said, the PS5 has one thing under its belt which the other console doesn't have: exclusives. And that might seem like a minor thing, but it's actually quite big in defining kind of what this console can do. And Astro's Playroom, as you've heard many folks talk about it already, is a major way to show off what the console's capable of, not just in terms of graphics, but also in terms of immersion. I'll try to describe to the best of my ability how the DualSense feels in the hand. So imagine, if you will, that you're pulling back a drawstring on a bow and arrow in a game. The further you pull the bow back, the more tense the triggers become for that drawstring, and it takes a little bit more effort to pull it back. And that's kind of the idea behind haptic feedback, but it's oh so much more than that. Like, if you're getting blown away by wind, it feels like you're getting blown away by wind. It's not a gimmick, and it's very impressive. The downside to it is that it takes up much more controller battery life. So the controller will die faster the longer you play Astro's Playroom or Miles Morales or Demon's Souls if you dare. It's a hard game. Anyway, just keep that in mind. On average, my PS5 controller probably lasted me about 1.5 days of normal use, and less than that when playing PS5 titles. So, you know, it's not exactly a battery champ, but I'm sure there's going to be ways that you can enhance that. I mean, my PS4 controller had a battery pack attached to it all the time because I got sick of having to plug it in. It's not that bad, but it's not, like, really, really great either. Okay. So, getting back to external drives, I highly recommend that you just plug in the external drive if you have one for your PS4 and plug it directly into the console and it'll recognize it. However, unfortunately, for your game saves, make sure you back them all up to the cloud. And if you're not a PS Plus member, unfortunately, you have to become one in order to make use of this particular feature. Once you're a member, download all of your saves from the cloud, and then you have all of your save data already on your console, and then you just boot up the game just like you would any other time. But you are limited because you have to be a PS Plus member, which is unfortunate, but, you know, total company move to do. So is this better than the Series X? No. Is the Series X better than the PS5? No. No. Neither are better than each other. Some things the PS5 does better, and others the Xbox Series X does better. But there's a couple of things that I would do to improve the interface of the PS5. For one, where are my folders? I hate this blocky tile look. It's annoying. And if I were to boot up all 140-something games, I'd have to scroll to the right forever. And I really don't want to do that. That's just, an annoying thing that doesn't need to happen. Automatic HDR, as cool as it is for me, it may not be on other TVs, and it might be more of an annoyance. Who knows? It might become a problem. They should have the option to automatically detect if the game is SD or not, and or at least have the option to turn it on and off. The Tempest engine. They really need to show me what the Tempest engine can do, because I'm not convinced. The Dolby Digital is still pretty immersive as it is, but not as immersive as Dolby Atmos. I don't think that the PS5 will get Dolby Vision support, but it would be a nice thing to have, I think, for all of you out there that own OLEDs or Dolby Vision TVs. I just think that it kind of makes a little bit of a difference. I wish that the NVMe support was there. That's another thing. Right now, your NVMe drive is actually disabled, so even if you bought a card, you can't even necessarily use it, which is a bummer. Also, you cannot, under any circumstances, save PS5 games to an external drive. They need the SSD to run, and they won't save to an external drive. Why? I don't know. So if you're going to be installing a bunch of PS5 games at least, they need to be installed directly to the hard drive. Which again brings me back to the same thing I said with the Series X, hard drive management. For all your old games, store them on an external hard drive. And for all your new games, play them through, beat them, and delete them. And try to, conserve on your storage space, because the more updates that come out for the console's UI, the more space will be taken up over time. And yeah, it is what it is. What was I gonna say? Sorry, I lost my train of thought, guys. Oh yeah, PlayStation VR. So PlayStation VR on the PS5 is a little tricky because you do not have a dedicated camera port. So what you need to do is you need to reach out to Sony themselves, and within a week or so, they send you one of these. Nice little VR adapter. Sorry, my phone's not focusing. Oh, crap. Okay. I'm not having a good day today, guys. Okay. There you go. Camera adapter. So it plugs in via USB, camera plugs into there, and boom, away you go. You can play your old PSVR collection if you got a ton of them. But of course, there will probably be a PSVR 2. It's just a matter of time. So, a couple of myths I'd like to debunk. The rest mode myth. I don't know where it came from. I don't know who started it. So I guess some YouTubers have had an issue. I personally have not. In fact, for the record, I haven't had a single issue with my PS5 yet. Knock on wood. And I actually had to replace a whole light today. Like a light fixture. And when I did that, I powered down my entire living room. And my PlayStation lost power and everything else lost power. Booted up my PlayStation, repaired the hard drive, and it was like nothing ever happened. So the fact that it can take that, like a full-on power outage, and be fine, to me is impressive. Not all consoles can do that. It takes them time to kind of restore themselves. What else? The external hard drive myth. People are saying don't use external hard drives. Don't use external hard drives for PS5 games, but still use them. You'll get use out of them. All your PS4 library will be playable on your PS5, so absolutely use them. Don't not use them out of paranoia. That's silly. The whole controller charging, glitch that apparently some people have had, I've never had it. The D-pad problems that other people have had, I haven't had them. So, yeah. What else for PS5 myths are there? Oh yeah, the noise. Can you hear anything? Listen closely now. So once in a while when the disk drive amps up, or sometimes like I don't know, there's like a little kind of whine sound sort of. It's like for just a second or two and then it's quiet again. So I don't know what people are complaining about with noise. I also don't know what they're complaining about with heat dissipation either. I haven't had a single problem with either or. I haven't had a single problem with Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered either. And I've booted it from a cold boot. And I haven't had that weird glitch that everyone's talking about, so I don't know. I think it's just like, not really widespread, but just like a small amount of people that are having issues, and then everybody freaks out. You're gonna have issues, guys. This is the start of a new console generation. There's going to be issues. However, that being said, I've experienced way more issues on the Xbox Series X, at least in terms of graphical hiccups and settings, than I have on the PS5. Does that make the PS5 a superior machine? No. It just means that the Xbox has a little bit more kinks to iron out. It also means that the Xbox Series X may not be technically launch ready at the present moment, whereas the PS5 might be a little bit more launch ready, minus the scalpers. Oh, and let's get this out of the way right now. Do not support those morons, please. Like, don't buy a console off of these scalping buggers. Please don't. Do yourself a favor. Like, seriously, don't do it. Because the more they get away with it, the more they're going to do it. Just case in point, now they're doing it with Xbox Series X's. There was 3,500 PS5s the other day. Now the same company bought up 1,000 of the Series X. And they're flipping them. And they're selling them for $1,000 a piece. These consoles are nice. They're great. They're nice to have. I like the improvements on them. But I'm going to be honest with you guys. $1,000? No. If you're going to spend that kind of money, you should go out and get yourself a powerful gaming PC. Or better yet, if you're going to spend that kind of money, then get both consoles. Don't just get one. Spend $1,000 on both. Don't buy one for $1,000. Don't do it. It's not worth it. No matter how popular they are, no matter how much they improve, they are not worth over $1,000 or $1,000. Don't buy into that nonsense. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Also, both consoles are not capable at the present moment of outputting 8K, which I'm sure doesn't matter to a good portion of my audience. But to those of you that do own an 8K TV, these consoles can't quite get that resolution yet. And I hear some of you going, but what about the HDMI 2.1 cap? Well, on the PS5, you honestly don't notice it. You really don't. Like 32 gigabits per second as opposed to the full 40? It's a bummer, sure. It's weird that it's capped. Absolutely. But do you notice it? Well, in actual gameplay, no you don't. But let's talk about frames per second for a minute. On the Xbox Series X, you can force it to run at 120 frames per second with HDR and VRR. On the PS5, however, you do not get a choice. It automatically picks the frames per second for you, and the resolution is just whatever it's outputting on screen. However, it also it turns on HDR automatically. So the only way to adjust frames per second is if you engage like a frame rate mode or a performance mode or something like that. Like that's the only way you can do it at the present moment, or Sony just chooses for you. Like Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition automatically does 120 frames per second whether you want it to or not. It'd be nice to switch back and forth, but it is what it is. If your TV supports 120 frames per second, you're going to be getting 120 frames per second, but you don't have any control over when you get it. So that's another thing I would improve upon, Sony. Okay. So I think that about does it for now. I realize this review was a little bit longer than the Series X. This isn't because the Series X is an inferior console or that there's less to talk about. There was just a little bit more to talk about with the PS5 because of all the little intricacies with it and, all the little weird little rumors we've heard and, also the settings and everything else. And it just turned out to be a little bit of a longer video by a bit of a margin. All right, well, that being said, guys, if you have any questions for me about this system and or your TV settings or etc., hit me up in the comments down below. Smash that like button. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm that apparently likes to zero in on certain things. And If you could ding that bell just if you want to know what I come out with next. If you haven't subscribed already, now would be a great time to do so. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.